Oh man. No, hey, we got it. We've got everything working. Maybe not working exactly as we thought we would have it working, but all technical challenges aside, we will have an interview this evening. So Marcus is wondering if you missed all the cap art already. No, you did not, Marcus. I don't even know if we're going to be showing any cap art tonight, but you haven't missed a thing. We had a few technical difficulties, but we're all ready to get started now. So yeah, this is well, I'm just going to bring Alfredo in. He's on his camera. So, or no, he's not on his camera. He's on his phone now. And here he is. Alfredo, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here. I want to thank all the guys that have joined to watch this interview. It's been a long time in the making. I don't know if you recall. I did pop in one of the interviews when we had similar situation in which one of the comic art fans that was being interviewed couldn't do the interview because of technical difficulties. I think it was Tony Brischler, and I think that was 3.5 years ago. I want to say right after May the 4th. The only reason I recall that is because I remember Jeffrey Wedding was interviewed May the 4th, and I think I popped in that interview like a week or two after.
Well, we'll have to dig around. You're right. I probably never updated the show graphic or any information to say that you were the one we ended up interviewing after all the problems we had. And then lo and behold, we have problems to start this thing off. Everybody was screaming I should bring Alberto or Jason D'Ambrosio in here to cage match or something while we waited to figure out what was going on with your stuff.
Well, I'm here, so we're ready to go. So
yes, we are. And the thing is, we actually have a CAF Cribs video that you shot, and I thought maybe before we even do anything, let's we can watch the CAF Cribs video, because if I'm not mistaken, when we did the fill-in interview with you, you kind of walked us around the room anyway. You were literally like the first crib that we ever did, and probably were the reason why we started doing a few of them after that. But because as everybody can see, there's a lot of art on your walls. You can barely even see the walls. There is so much art on them in your man cave.
You're absolutely right. I've run out of real estate on my walls. And yeah, Dino Mauricio did, when we went to Heroes 3 years ago, and we did that get together at the bar, he did mention that I was the first CAF crib. I would like to say it was probably him, even though he did it like in a closet and it was smaller. But I did I do recall that I gave everybody a tour and talked about every art piece and who the artist was, and that was a lot of fun. That was like an ad hoc type of interview that we had to do, a pinch hit at the last minute, and it worked out, and it was a lot of fun.
It did. Well, why don't we do let's play the video, the CAF Cribs video, and then we'll do the interview. Sound good?
Go for it. Sounds good.
All right, here we go, everybody. A little different. We've never done this before, but here we go. Oh man, I'll tell you, Alfredo, I'm at a loss for words. You got a Justco hiding behind the door. How often do you even change the artworks that are in here with any regularity, or does it just stay as is?
I actually have changed a few pieces. For example, um, the Leno Francis Yu cover with Ben Kenobi and Luke Skywalker and the Tusken Raiders in the background. That was probably my most recent exchange. The Ray Lago Boba Fett was also a recent exchange. Um, the Phil Tan Kraven's Last Hunt tribute was a recent exchange. So yeah, here and there I do change it. It all depends on if there's a piece that I like more as I acquire them, and I change it up a little bit, but the pieces that are displayed are really my favorite pieces, And this room, believe it or not, is 45 years of collecting. It's a lifetime of collecting. In fact, let me show you something that's neat that I found the other day in my mother's house. So when we arrived to this country, I bought this for my room, the Superman light switch cover, and I still have it. I now use it as a to put drinks on it. It's pretty neat though, and it's been with me since 1979. So I have all kinds of artifacts, and I collect all kinds of things, all kinds of curiosities. If you looked inside the cabinets, you saw some prehistoric shark teeth and maybe some like fossilized rocks, etc., with fossils imprinted, like real fossils imprinted on them, which I buy at conventions. So, it's anything that catches my eye, I tend to buy. I'm a lot into the statues. I'm a big Mandalorian Grogu fan, as you can see from some of the newer statues that are displayed, and yeah, a lifetime of collecting.
I noticed that. I mean, there was a lot of Spider-Man and a lot of Star Wars there. So, I mean, is there a favorite? Do you kind of lean a little bit more one way than the other?
Well, to be honest with you, yes, Spider-Man, Star Wars, G.I. Joe were some of my favorites growing up. But believe it or not, it wasn't my all-time favorite. My all-time favorite was Wendy Penney and Richard Penney's ElfQuest story, which I discovered back in 1983 at a Walden Books, in which I think those were my first graphic novels. They were published in Dawning Starblaze, if I recall, I think in 83, and I bought the very first one. I convinced my father to buy one for me. I think it was 1995 or something like that. And he says, well, I'm only going to buy you one per month. And I go, you can't buy them all right now? And he says, nope, one per month. So he bought it for me. I did save up some money. I recall walking to the mall at the Walden Books. This was a famous bookstore that was in every strip mall. And as a 10-year-old kid, I just walked to the mall and bought the second one. And then he figured it out, because when he took me a month later to buy the third one, he goes, what happened to the second one? And I go, I bought it already with my own money. So it's kind of funny. And yeah, that the Wendy and Richard Penney original ElfQuest stories, that was just perfection. Her art is exquisite. The story is the original quest is a 20 original comic book, independent comic book story, which I didn't read from the beginning, because I think it came out in 78, but it then did get printed in Marvel in 85, and I did buy all those 20 original issues at comic book shops, after the fact, just to have them in the collection. But when it came out in 85 in Marvel Comics, when they were printed, I think they were 32 issues, if I recall. And I think Marvel Comics issues had only 22 pages, while the original Warp Graphics magazine size had 32 pages. So believe it or not, Wendy Penney had to do a title splash page and I think another panel page just to get the books complete. Because I think the original books were 32 pages for 20 issues. And I think the Elf Quest were 32 issues, and they had to be 22 pages because that was the standard that Marvel was making stories at. And I did buy all of those as well, and I was obsessed with Elf Quest all the way through until I got married. It was my favorite comic. However, I did always collect Star Wars. Star Wars, I think, was my very first passion into collecting. I saw the movie on the big screen back in 1977. I recall that movie vividly. I think it was my very first movie experience ever. I recall other movies that I saw, such as Superman, but I think that came out in '78. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I remember seeing that movie. I don't remember when it came out, but it could have been before or after the original Star Wars. I recall seeing a James Bond movie. I think it was The Spy Who Loved Me or something of that nature. I remember when Grease came out, my sister wanted to see it, but we couldn't see it because the movie theater wouldn't sell my parents a ticket for me. I was too young. So yeah, and this was all in Spain because I was born in Spain. I'm of Cuban heritage, but my parents did migrate to Spain with my sister when she was 1 year old. I was born in Spain in 1973. So if you do the math, yes, I'm 51 years old. And, just to give you a little bit of my origin and my collecting habits. So comics have always been in my background. I remember comics ever since I can remember because my sister was an avid comic book reader. And some of her favorite stories were, and I don't know if anybody knows who these guys are, but one of them was Asterix, which was, I think it was a French comic book based on some Viking guys, which I thought that was pretty cool. And believe it or not, I did keep all of those comics, and I have them stored here in my house. I kept them all. And I loved the Asterix comics. But she also read another comic, which I hated. I just hated the hell out of it. I couldn't stand them, and she kept all of those. They were called Mortadelo and Filemon. And I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but that the style of that comic reminds me a lot of Gru the Wonder. So, Gru the Wonder was a pretty cool comic growing up. But the way that those characters were drawn, the characters had skinny legs, big noses, huge ears, etc. So it was like a Gru the Wanderer type of style, but those comics have been around forever. But I hated them. I couldn't stand them. I couldn't read them. They reminded me of Mr. Magoo, and I didn't like that cartoon when growing up. Mr. Magoo was. I'm sorry, you're muted, Bill. Can you hear me? Bill, I can't hear you. Are you muted? Bill, I can't hear you. Are you muted? Bill, I can't hear you. Are you muted? Uh-oh. Bill, I can't hear you. Are you muted? Uh-oh. Bill, I can't hear you. Are you muted? All right, so I guess I'll keep talking. I can't hear Bill at all. And I am working this from my phone because I couldn't get access through my Surface Pro. We couldn't figure it out. But yeah, just to continue the story. My sister liked that comic Mortadelo and Filemon, and I think the English translation would be probably Mort and Phil. So if anybody is curious and wants to look that up, they could look that up. I think that's what that comic is called. But my very first comic that I recall having was a Star Wars #4, the original movie comic adaptation in Spanish, and it was Beat to Hell. And I had it all the way through the 90s. I don't know where that comic is. It could be in my long boxes. stored away. I have to look for it, but my long boxes are stored away in my closet, and there's a bunch of boxes in front of them, on top of them, etc. So I haven't gone into to dig it up, but it's a very cool keepsake if I could find it. Can you guys still hear me? Can you give me a thumbs up? If you could hear me, give a thumbs up on the chat. Anyways, I will continue.
I think we can hear you.
Oh, you could hear me? Was that Bill?
Yes, that was me. I've changed my microphone.
All right, perfect.
You're good. Everybody's giving you the thumbs up in the chat.
So to continue. All right, perfect. So to continue my origin story of how I got into collecting comic art. So I did collect all the Star Wars and G.I. Joe figures growing up. I collected comics throughout my teenage years. It slowed down a little bit as I entered college. I met my wife after I graduated college, and she would start. She knew I liked the comics and all that stuff, so she would buy me these shirts. They were like they were very cool button-down shirts that were kind of Hawaiian style, and I swear I would wear those every weekend religiously, and my wife wouldn't mind. And I look back and I'm like, Jesus Christ, I can't believe you let me wear that every single weekend. We would go to restaurants and I would be wearing one of those shirts. But she supported my habit from the very start, and we fell in love, and I go, this is the girl for me. She supports my habit. I love this hobby, and she never minded me my collecting habits, and she always supported it and would buy me stuff towards my collection on holidays, birthdays, etc. I wear pajamas that are superhero pajamas, etc. It's kind of funny because she always says, you're like a big kid. Whenever you get something in Amazon, like a cap or something, or a toy or a statue, you always like open the box, so excited. You wear the cap, you open the toy, and you're like a big kid. And I go, oh, geez, it's true. Anyways, so long story short, we got married in 1999. We were saving up for a house because I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, which we moved into when we got married, but it was very small for us. We were saving for a long time. We got pregnant. We went to go see the movie Unbreakable. Because the first movie that M. Night Shyamalan did, which was The Sixth Sense, I believe. And then I recalled the director, so we went to go see the movie Unbreakable. And I remember, as the movie starts, it starts giving you like a synopsis of comic art collecting, saying something like the average comic book, I think it starts, the average comic has, I don't know, 32 pages. I don't know how many panels. It ranges in price from $1 to $200,000 or something of that nature. I guess that would be the Action Comics #1 at that time. And the average collector has a collection of 4,000 plus comics. I'm like, oh my God, that's me.
He's the average.
Yeah, so I'm like, wow, this movie is really, because it captivated me from the start. And as you start seeing that movie develop, and you see that Bruce Willis, which is the main character, he gets into an accident in a train that gets derailed or crashes into another train. I don't recall exactly how it was. He's the only survivor. And then, Mr. Glass, that's what the kids call this. I'm sorry?
You know that? So we get to see comic art in that as well, Alfredo. So
yeah, exactly.
There was a lot of relatable things going on in that film.
Exactly. I'm getting to the good part. This is my origin story. So yeah, you see M. Night Shyamalan, who's Mr. Glass. He owns like a studio, and he sells original comic art, because when he was a kid, he would collect comics that his mother would buy him because he suffered from an ailment. I guess this would be his weakness. Frail bones, which he would fall and all his bones would break. So he got into comics and he started collecting comics. and you see that he's in his store. I think it's called limited edition, and a father is there trying to purchase a piece of original art for like a 4 or 5 year old, his 4 or 5 year old kid, and he gets all upset and says, "No, I can't sell this to you. This is not for little kids." And that's the moment that I realized, wait a minute, I can collect original comic art. And I saw this movie, I think it was in the holidays of 2000. I think that's when it came out. Soon after that, my oldest daughter was born. And right after that, I bought my first piece of original art, which was a Wendy Penny sketch that she had done in 1978. This was when Elfquist had just, started. So I guess this was one of the convention sketches, one of the first original convention sketches that she had done. And I was obsessed with trying to find as much original Wendy Penny art as I could. And I tried to get a Skywise piece, and one did pop up on eBay. Well, the first Wendy Penny sketch was Cutter, the main character. I recall buying it. I think it was $200. Like a month or two later, another sketch came up on eBay, which was Skywise, which was his sidekick. And I got outbid in the last second by none other than Tim Townsend, who is a Marvel inker. And I'm like, I can't believe you sniped me for this piece. But, I really wanted that Skywise original Wendy piece that he bought. And believe it or not, it took me over 20 years to finally get a Skywise sketch.
Mm-hmm.
And how I found it? I found it through comic art dealers, the comic dueling dealers. I think it was with Anthony and Romita, man.
One of the early ones. Yeah, I know. I regretted buying a couple of those. I think we had like 2 on there in the early days. You got one, huh?
And the Skywise came up, and I jumped all over, and I couldn't believe that I was able to finally complete that quest. That was my quest. I wanted to get that original Skywise Wendy piece, which took over 20 years for me to complete that challenge. Isn't that amazing?
It is. I'm glad I was a part of that. Small part of it.
It was Anthony that posted it. I couldn't believe my eyes. I go, oh my God, there it is. And I think it was $1,000 or something, but I was so happy to get it. And another Skywise original page sold on eBay, I want to say 6 months before, for over $3,000. So it was like the perfect grab. It was right place, right time.
Yeah. No, that's. I remember after that show was over, I told Anthony if he ever got another page, anything from Wendy, that I needed to get it, and they haven't gotten anything since. So that's how rare they are. I mean, if those guys aren't picking up, Anthony, he gets everything.
And the reason why they're so rare is because Wendy Penny donated all her original art that she drew, almost all of it. Some of it is still out there, but some of the published pieces, almost all the published pieces, she donated, I think, to Columbia University back in, I want to say 2012, 2010. I don't remember. But yeah, or maybe even before that. I don't know. Because it's always been a quest for me to get more pages. And I do have another Wendy Penny published page, which you will see when we start displaying all the pages. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah. And believe it or not, I've never had the privilege, the opportunity to meet Wendy and Richard Penny. And I was supposed to during Heroes this past summer. But unfortunately, I couldn't make it because there was like a flash flood, which the airports here in South Florida, they all got flooded. The Fort Lauderdale airport, Miami International Airport got flooded. I had tickets. I had hotel. I had the Comic-Con tickets, and I could not make it because my flights got canceled, and it unfortunately didn't work out, and I missed the whole show.
Mm-hmm. You never know. You never say never. It could still happen, weren't they? They were weren't they at Heroes last year? Or maybe it was the year before.
Heroes. I'm sure I was ready to go see him. I was going to take both pieces of that.
I would have gone over there and said hi to him for you. I would have said your #1 fan could not make it, but
yeah.
I can get my picture with him for you.
But I'm hoping that next year.
So, well, why don't we? Well, and so the thing is, I wonder. It does make me wonder how many are comic art collecting. Collectors got started thanks to the Unbreakable movie, because I had started collecting about 2 years before that, and it was just shocking to see comic art on the in a movie, and realistically a movie that involved the art that much. Out of the blue, right after I got started. I mean, I figured I was going to see a movie every year after that, that had comic book art in it, and of course, it never happened. But and it was Samuel Jackson who was the gallery owner, though. He was the one who wouldn't sell the art to the kid. But either way, why don't we look at that Wendy Pini piece? Because you started, you gave me everything, and you gave it to me in the order that you wanted to talk about it, and the Pini piece is first. So. Marcus, you only wish you had as good a relationship with them as I do. But here we go. Let's talk about this, because this is beautiful, and I want to know how you got it.
Well, this is a gorgeous piece. It's probably the largest original art piece in my collection. It is the cover to the Wendy Pini anthologies, in which they created, I think, 5 paperback books, Blood of 10 Chiefs. And this is the character here that's depicted is Tim Warren, Yellow Eyes. He's the first chieftain of the Wolf Riders. Cutter is the main character of ElfQuest, and he would be the 11th chief. And the reason why this guy looks almost like a werewolf is because his mother, who's an elf, mated with a wolf. So he's a half breed. He's half wolf, half elf, and because of this bloodline mix, the ElfQuest, the Wolf Riders, who is what they're called, they're not mortal, but the pure-blooded elves are immortal. So this is an anthology book that they created stories based on the 10 chiefs for the Wolf Riders. And what's so neat about this cover is the contrast between fire and ice. You can see how, he's fighting a polar saber-toothed cat, yet in the background you see like it's burning, his hair, his eyes are just glowing. Such a gorgeous, beautiful piece, and shows how accomplished Wendy Pini is as an artist, and not only that, as a painter. This was created on canvas and oil, and I obtained this piece through Heritage back in, I want to say, 2005. For those who are curious, can research it right now on Heritage, and they could see exactly, how much I paid for it and when I bought it. And this is how I discovered the website Heritage. And I put my very best bid, which was a lot of money at the time for me. And I won it to the penny, and I couldn't believe my eyes when I got this piece, and it's just such a beautiful, gorgeous piece. I don't know what else to say other than that I love it.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, and there's definitely not many of these out there in collectors' hands. So I think it's fantastic. I'm trying to search market data right now to figure out what you paid for it too.
It was like 700 plus their fees or something, but I'm not sure. It could have been more. I don't know. So believe it or not, this was the very first Heritage piece that I bid on and won. But I'm not very successful bidding on Heritage. I always get outbid. But not outbid by a little. I get outbid by a lot. I have very little success getting stuff on Heritage. I guess it's the number one auction house out there, and they have a lot of people that follow them, and Everything always now things are just blowing up as you wanna.
Yes, but if you got this for less than $1,000, then you did pretty well. Even though that was you're pushing yourself to get it, you did pretty well for that one.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 2005 when it came out. And the reason how I discovered it is because I would follow Wendy and Richard Pinney on their website, and they announced it, and I think they emailed fans, and that's how I got my start with Heritage. Everything else that I would buy prior to this was always on eBay. eBay was my number one collecting auction house where I would buy stuff, buy it now. But yeah, I wanted to fill this room here, believe it or not, with Wendy Pinney artwork, and I only have 3 to date. So,
well, that's 3 more than I have, Alfredo. So you're doing all right. But so you go from let's locate. You mentioned a few other IPs, obviously Spider-Man, Star Wars, and GI Joe. So might as well take a look at your second pick here.
wow. So GI Joe, growing up, when GI Joe came out, I just loved those action figures. And Snake Eyes is everybody's favorite character. It's been always my favorite character. I think GI Joe came out in 1981, but I started collecting the action dolls first, the action figures first, and I think then the comic books came out, and I would buy the comic books at my local 7-Eleven, at the spinner racks, and I never in a million years imagined that I would own the most fabulous, most perfect Snake Eyes published cover portrait in the world, and I say that because I believe by far this is the best depiction of Snake Eyes ever created by David Michael Beck. And this was a cover that was published in the second run of GI Joe, I think back in 2000 or 2001. This was the back cover to the #1 issue published by Devil's Due, and David Michael Beck would do a full portrait of a GI Joe or Cobra character behind each one of those issues. And I acquired this through Catskill Comics, through Scott. Wow. I'm sure you know who Scott is.
Oh yeah, their website. Yeah.
Yeah, and believe it or not, back then this was like my biggest purchase ever. To that moment, it was a pretty penny for me, but I had to have it. My only regret is that there was also a Storm Shadow piece, which was for sale as well, but I couldn't afford both of them. So obviously I went for my favorite piece, but I wanted to get the Storm Shadow as well. And when I was ready to go for it, it had just sold. So I have no idea who owns that Storm Shadow piece, but that would be a perfect companion piece for this one. So if anybody has any leads, let me know. I would love to reunite both of them if I can afford it. Maybe the guy gives me a reasonable price, but I would definitely love to reunite the Storm Shadow and the Snake Eye piece. And they look great together because Storm Shadow is facing the other way, holding his swords. And if you know GI Joe, Storm Shadow is a ninja, and Snake Eyes was also trained by the family of Storm Shadow. They both served in Vietnam in the comic book, and when they came back to the United States from Vietnam, if you know a little bit of the backstory, Snake Eyes lost his family, and he went to go train in, I guess, Japan with I think the clan is the Arakashi family, which was Storm Shadow's family. They were best friends, and the story develops in which Storm Shadow's uncle gets murdered, and people think it's Storm Shadow, but it wasn't Storm Shadow. It was another villain called Zartan, which I guess was a chameleon. And when Zartan tried to kill when Zartan killed Storm Shadow's uncle, he was actually trying to kill Snake Eyes, but Snake Eyes was practicing some type of control of the heartbeat, in which everybody supposedly has a different type of heartbeat. And since Zartan was kind of a ninja himself, he thought he was killing Storm Shadow, but the uncle who was training Snake Eyes at the time was mimicking Snake Eyes' heartbeat. So that's why the wrong character got killed. And so Snake Eyes thinks that Storm Shadow killed the guy, killed his uncle, and they became rivals. But all that works out through G.I. Joe, and it's an amazing storyline arc created by Larry Hama, which I got to meet at Heroes when we all went right after the pandemic. And he Larry Hama is one of my comic book heroes, which I'm so happy I got to meet.
I had no idea that the G.I. Joe storyline was that in depth and involved. I no clue. I thought they just drove around in tanks and all-terrain vehicles and fired weapons, and there's so much to it. I really know nothing about it. I never watched the cartoon, and I haven't read the comics. But
there's so much to it. You said it, and believe it or not, it was through G.I. Joe that I discovered my favorite artist of all time, which is Michael Zeck, which drew many of the covers for G.I. Joe. Yeah.
Well, we're not looking at Zeck just yet, but we're going over to Spider-Man here. So I guess we get to figure out, because we haven't talked too much about Spider-Man, and we saw a lot of Spider-Man art on the walls during the CAF video, and we saw this one too.
So yeah, this is since we're moving into the next piece. This is a published cover in a Spider-Man Kids magazine. I never bought the magazine, but it really pops. This piece really pops. It's so colorful, so beautiful. And this is created by Mike Zeck. And it was airbrushed by Phil Zimmelman. So I don't know much about the magazine because I didn't collect it. However, I did try to acquire the original pen and ink cover through another collector and comic art fans who owns the pen and ink, but he doesn't want to sell it. Maybe one day he'll sell it to me. But this popped up on Heritage not so long. Well, it was a while back, maybe 10 years ago. I can't remember. And again, I knew I had to have this piece, so I was actually when I purchased this piece, I was ready to do a bid war to acquire it. Thankfully, I think this piece was on a Thursday or something when it was being sold, so there wasn't a lot of traffic, and I got it for much less than what I would have bid on it. And it's just such a beautifully depicted piece of Spider-Man, and the colors just really, really pop, and it's gorgeous how it's done. And if you all know who Phil Zimmelman is, he is the artist that airbrushed all the Punisher. I think, was it Return to Big Nothing, or it was a limited edition, the 5-issue limited edition comics of the Punisher, which Chuck Costas, who is a big Zeck collector, it took him probably, I want to say 20 to 25 years to reunite all 5 of those covers after he first saw them way back in 1986 at a convention. And it's the same artist that airbrushed those covers, airbrushed this one. And Phil Zimmelman has airbrushed many Mike Zeck covers, but this is by far my favorite. And believe it or not, I'm a huge Spider-Man guy. Spider-Man now is my favorite character of all time. It surpassed Wendy Penny, ElfQuest. Now I can't get enough of Spider-Man. And whenever I see something that catches my eye, if I like it, I'll go for it. So I'm glad I'm able to share this piece with all of you, so you could enjoy it as much as I do. And I get to see it every day in my room, but hopefully, this piece will get more traffic and people can really enjoy it.
I mean, it's literally right behind you.
It is. It's right behind me. I guess it's the opposite of how it's supposed to be, because I'm on my camera, but it really, really pops. It's an amazing piece.
And is that the new Romita Senior book beside you?
It is the new Romita Senior book beside me, which I bought with a gift card that I earned for exercising through my United Healthcare or something. And they would pay me 75 cents per day if I go walking for half an hour, and if I track my sleeping habits after 5 days, $250 a week, etc. And so I think the total was a $300 gift card, and this is one of the things that I bought. I haven't opened it yet. I just got it probably a week and a half ago. It's kind of one of my Christmas gifts for myself, and I just put it here because I thought it would be neat for the CAF crib. It just felt right to put it there for now.
Well, mine's still shrink wrapped too, but I got one as well. So
yeah, it's shrink wrapped, and I can just imagine how gorgeous it's going to be when I open it.
James, yeah, you can, James. Imagine if comic art fans would put together some kind of a plan like that. For every page on CAF you view, we'll give you a penny. So the more pages of artwork that you look at on CAF, just imagine the amount of money. Well, you guys would all be rich, I think, if we had a plan like that. All right. So where are we going from here? Number 4. Forget we. Oh, that's right. I think this is on your wall too, right?
Yes, it is. I think, well, not all the pieces are on my wall, but yeah, most of them that I selected are. And this is an Alex Saviuk pinup, which is depicting Spider-Man front and center with some of his most infamous rogue calorie. It's more like a tribute to the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 100. And this is a published piece. I can't remember right now which comic it's published in. I did describe it. You could probably help me with that. But I acquired this.
Marvel Superheroes, right? Yeah.
Marvel Superheroes. There you go. So yeah, this is a pinup at the back of the book, and I got this through Nick Cotratis. He's another CAF collector who collected a lot. I think he sold most of his Alex Saviuk collection. So Alex Saviuk was one of the artists that I would read comics the Web of Spider-Man, and I've met him many times in all the conventions that I go to, and he knows me by name. Every time he sees me, he remembers my name. He's the only artist that has ever gifted me a page. So I can call Alex Saviuk my friend. He's a dear friend of mine. I appreciate him very much. But anyways, this piece caught my eye, and Nick Cotratis, had his gallery, and he had a bunch of amazing Web of Spider-Man covers plus this one. This is the piece that I really wanted, by the way. So, one of my tricks was, well, would you sell any of these 5 pages? And he goes, yeah, I would. Make me an offer. No, that's not how it went. He says, yeah, he gave me the prices for each, and I couldn't afford any of them. And I go, well, that's too high for me. So he did give me the option to make him an offer, and I made him an offer for this one, which was my favorite, the one that I really wanted. He accepted it. The rest is history. And that's how I acquired this page. And it's such a beautiful page. And it goes very well with another piece that I have, which is a gem that I created over 3-4 years. But yeah, Alex Saviuk, gorgeous page, and it's beautiful.
Well, I love Alex's work on Spider-Man. I've got a Sunday by him. Yeah, this is fantastic. It really is nice. somebody
Yeah,
mentioned.
and Alex Saviuk has been drawing Spider-Man probably just as long as anybody. I mean, he's been on Spider-Man for over 30 years. He did do the dailies and the Sunday strips with Joe Sinnott, and I do own some of those Sunday strips, and unfortunately, I don't know why I sold 4 of them, but I did sell 4 of them to acquire other art, which I should have never done. But shame on me. It's it's one of the mistakes that you make. When you want to acquire something else. Truthfully, the best way to do it is to just save up or to apply for a new credit card at 0% interest.
Or walk a few more miles every day, Alfredo. I mean, it's a gift card. You can use it for anything, probably. Oh man. Well, okay, where are we going from here? This is well, wait a minute. Now, this is a lot of artists. Is this the piece you were talking about that you've that you did as a jam, or tell me about this piece?
That's the piece that I'm talking about that goes great with the Alex Saviuk piece.
It does.
And it's a jam, and this depicts black the same exact pose of Amazing Spider-Man number 100, but with the black Spidey costume. And this was done for me by Mike Zeck, and I was able to acquire this through a friend. His name is Daniel Partouche, who now owns his own business in selling CGC comics and getting comic art, and I think his shop is named One Stop Shop. Anyways, I met Daniel Partouche through one of the first conventions that I went to in Orlando. And he was standing right in front of me or right behind me, I can't remember. And we had connected through Comic Art Fans because he liked Mike Zeck and I liked Mike Zeck. And we didn't realize we were standing next to each other. And then he goes, "Are you Alfredo Quintero?" I go, "Yeah, that's me." "Oh, I'm Daniel Partouche." And I go, "Oh, cool." Anyways, long story short, Daniel started his own. He left his career. I think he was a guidance counselor at a local university. I don't remember what university. He lived in Fort Lauderdale or Palm Beach. I don't know. So he was a guidance counselor at a local university, but I would see him at all the conventions, Florida SuperCon, MegaCon, Tampa Bay Comic Con, and any other convention here in Florida. And he started a relationship with Mike Zeck, and he was able to get Mike Zeck to do a lot of CGC signatures and get some sketches of Mike Zeck inside graphic novels, etc. And I asked him, "Hey, you think Mike Zeck would do this for me?" And he asked him. Mike Zeck agreed. I was able to get exactly what I wanted, and it was perfect. I do have a picture in Comic Art Life of me and Mike Zeck holding this piece when he did it for me. I met Mike Zeck at that MegaCon, which he wasn't going to cons at the time. He refused to go to cons, but Daniel was at MegaCon and he was getting CGC comics signed by Mike Zeck at the hotel he was staying at. So I made an overnight trip to not only pick up this piece, but to meet Mike Zeck. And we invited Mike Zeck and John Beatty to dinner. We had a great time, just talking history and comics. And supposedly, as the story goes, supposedly Mike Zeck created the Black Spider-Man costume, but there is some controversy or something in which I hear that the editor, what's that editor's name? Is it Jim? I can't remember. He bought like a fan art of a Black Spidey costume, but instead of the emblem being in white, it was in red. And I think he paid $200 for that. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a big editor in the 80s. If anybody can help me, and he was able to get benefits for comic artists, such as getting their art back and and getting health insurance, etc. And I think he was also writing comics since the age of 12. Really tall guy. I can't remember his name. Anybody? Jim Shooter. Yeah, it is Jim Shooter. I knew. I said Jim. It is Jim Shooter. You see, Marcus Way knows. Marcus Wace knows everything. He's a genius. But yeah,
he's been around the block a few times.
I'm sorry.
He's been around the block a few times, Marcus.
Yeah, definitely. I got to meet Jim a couple of times at several conventions, and he always has great stories. He's a great guy to talk to. But anyways, yeah, Mike Sec did this for me, and then I started doing the jam pieces, the head sketches, which is probably, if you think about it, the easiest jam to make, because a head sketch doesn't take an artist very long to do, and some of them would take, probably 5 minutes. Some of them would take 30 minutes. The only one that took a long time was Jim Fleming, who did the Mary Jane for me. He took it to his hotel that night because he said, I want to do a really, really great job on it. And I said, okay, take it to your hotel. He brought it back the next day. And boy, did he really make Mary Jane stand out. It's gorgeous how he drew Mary Jane in the piece. And it's, a great piece, a great jam piece that took me I want to say 2-3 years to do. And how I got that idea, believe it or not, was through another comic art fan, Michael Gautrin, who's a friend of mine, who I also ran into in many conventions, especially MegaCon. And he befriended me, and he would always give me tips on, what to buy, the who were the best artists. And he sold me a couple of Mike Zeck. Well, he sold me a Mike Zeck piece, which I think he regrets selling. But he just reached out to me one day out of the blue and sold me a Mike Zeck piece, a recreation piece, and I jumped all over it. And I see Michael Gautrin. I saw him at OAX. That's the last time I saw him. He's a really, really good guy. And he did do a jam of Spider-Man, in which he did his own depiction of different head sketches, but it was done by John Romita Jr. And I thought it was such a great idea. So when I did this, I did ask him, hey, I want to do this, but Black Spidey, do you mind me doing it? I actually asked him for permission because I respect him, that much. I didn't want him to, get upset. He said, no, go for it. And he gave me the thumbs up, and the rest is history.
Indeed. Now, wait a minute. We're going to switch over to a artist that we have not talked about yet, and that is Ray Lago. But another Star Wars piece, Boba Fett.
So, wow, look at this piece. What a gorgeous piece. Look at how sharp it is done. And can you believe this is done in watercolor? I think this is probably one of the best pieces Ray Lago has ever done. And I acquired this piece just looking for Boba Fett art on Comic Art Fans. And one of the dealers had this for sale because I had just sold a Boba Fett art, which was a huge piece, but it was way too big for me to keep. And it was a toy art, Black Series art. So I sold that one, got good money for it, and I found this one for half the price of what I sold the other one for, and it was perfect. So I was able to acquire a better piece, in my opinion, for a lot less money from a local, not a local, a dealer. I think his name is Kirk. I can't remember the dealer's name, but he's off of California. He sold me a couple of pieces.
Dilbeck. Kirk Dilbeck.
Yes, Kirk Dilbeck.
Yep.
Yeah. So he sold me this piece, and let me see if I remember any other details on. So yeah, I sold that other piece. I acquired this one for far less. I remember he was going on vacation, and he goes, "I'll get back to you when I come back, and I'll sell it to you." And I was so desperate. I was hoping, please sell it to me, please sell it to me. But he did. He sold it to me. And immediately upon receiving it, I hung it on the wall. I removed one page and put this one. And yeah, it depicts Boba Fett in Tatooine with Jabba the Hutt's palace in the background, and Slave One starship behind them, and it's so gorgeous. And I can't believe this was done in watercolor. It's just mind blowing.
That's beautiful. I've always liked Lago's work. Typically, you only get more figure and less background. So this one's kind of special with the ship in there and as much landscape as you got in it as well too.
Believe it or not, this piece is not published. And the story goes that Kirk won this in a convention. I guess he got lucky and he won it. So this was like a pinup that Ray Lago did at a convention, and Kirk was a lucky winner. And now I'm the next guy that gets to keep it for a few decades. So yeah.
Congrats. Now I think I saw this and another Romita Senior on the wall when we were panning around earlier. So how did you get this one?
So yeah, definitely. So John Romita, I said that Mike Zeck is my favorite artist, but I want to say that to me, from my humble point of view, John Romita is the greatest artist of all time. So I gotta give my, tip my hat to Romita Man for cornering that market. Wise man for cornering that market and obtaining all the Romita art. Because truly, John Romita just drew Spider-Man so beautifully, and he drew all the ladies in Spider-Man's life so beautifully. And the reason why I think he drew them so beautiful is because he did do romance comics for a while, which I think at the time nobody really read, nobody really cared about. But when he did take over Steve Ditko, he just made Spider-Man the best character in Marvel Comics. And so I've always wanted to meet John Romita Sr. It's my one regret that I never got to meet him, but I did get to connect with him because John Romita did do this piece for me through his son. And as the story goes, I just wanted to meet John Romita so badly that this was I booked a trip to Baltimore Comic-Con to go meet with him. And I just wanted to shake his hand, get signatures, whatever, maybe get a quick sketch. And he canceled, I think, a few days before. So I was heartbroken. I'm like, I can't believe John Romita is not making it. So I did meet his son probably at MegaCon, I want to say a few months later or the following year. And I told him about this, and he goes, I'll get you in touch with my father. And he got me in touch with his father. And I told him the story. And he says, send me some books and tell me what it is that you want, and we'll figure something out. So I sent him like 4 or 5 books, which he signed. He did also write me on a Marvel comic stationery, a cool note, which I have to this day, and it's posted in Comic Art Fans. And he showed me this piece. And believe it or not, the man did not want me to pay him. What he wanted me to do was to make a donation to the Hero Initiative, which I was more than happy to do. All he really wanted was just send me $100 so I could take Virginia out to breakfast or dinner or something. I was happy to do that too. So by him not making it to Baltimore Comic-Con, it was a blessing in disguise for me, because I would have never gotten an original depiction of Spider-Man's origin with a ghostly image of Spider-Man in the background, and gotten the signatures that he did for me. And he's such a great man, such a great guy. And I stayed in touch with him throughout the years. I would email him on his birthday, and he was just so generous and gracious. And yeah, unfortunately, I never got to meet the man. It wasn't aligned. But that's my one regret of not ever being able to meet my hero, Romita.
Well, you got a fantastic piece, and then you also have this one.
And this one, this one is a great companion piece to the first one. Similar story happened. He was going to go to Florida SuperCon, and I bought the VIP tickets. And this was, in my house, here in Miami. I bought the VIP tickets, and he canceled at the last minute. So, he hooked it up again. What can I say? He did Daredevil with a ghostly, Matt Murdock with a ghostly image of Daredevil in the background. As you can see, this one is a much tighter image. So he really took his time doing this one. And once again, all he wanted was a donation to the Hero Initiative. And I guess this was his way of giving back to the industry, the career that blessed him so much. And he's a very beloved man. He is he's the greatest artist of all time, in my opinion. And I say that humbly, from my humble opinion. There are other guys that are great, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, John Buscema, but from my point of view, he is the greatest. John Romita will always be the greatest.
Well, he's amazing, and somehow you had the good fortune twice to get a piece of this caliber. So I don't know how that's possible.
By not meeting him, I got kind of blessed twice.
Exactly. That does not happen, Alfred.
Lightning struck twice in a bottle, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm. You are not the normal collector. So now I got to ask you, have you seen Kraven already? Because you have a lot of Kraven artwork.
Yeah, this is a Kraven artwork. Kraven is my favorite Spider-Man villain. And this is another John Romita piece. I think it was penciled by Ron Frenz and inked by John Romita, or the other way around. I want to say it was penciled by Ron Frenz. I'm going to go with that. But Kraven being my favorite Spider-Man villain, and it's only because of the Kraven's Last Hunt storyline, which to me was the greatest Spider-Man storyline of all time, done by my favorite artist, Mike Zeck, and one of my favorite inkers, Bob McLeod. I loved Kraven, and this is probably one of the greatest Kraven panel pages of all time, because it's a panel page and Kraven is jumping out of the page. It almost has that 3D image of Kraven jumping out of the panel page. And I acquired this again through CAF. CAF is, the place to go if you like art, and you connect with people. You could acquire, some of your favorite pieces. I got this from a collector who put it, in his gallery, and I favored it. And then one day I just reached out to him. I made him an offer he couldn't refuse, and he accepted. And the rest is history. The thing is that same collector, like 5 years later, got in touch with me again, saying, "Hey, would you sell me this piece back?" And I'm saying, "I'm sorry, I cannot sell you this piece. This is my favorite piece, one of my favorite pieces in my collection. This is John Romita, and with my favorite character, So, he understood, but I guess he had to try. And we've all made those mistakes. I've regretted selling some pieces. But this was a great, fortunate purchase for me, and for a price that I could afford. And it's none other by the greatest artist of all time, John Romita, and Ron Frenz, who is an amazing artist, whom I love and I've met as well. And I can't get enough of Ron Frenz art. So two legends here.
Yeah, no, the Kraven in this image is fantastic. So the two of them together, that's magical. I've always loved Ron Frenz's work as well. Got a few pages by him, nothing published by Romita Senior, but yeah, this would be a great page to have as an example for both artists. Now, I think we're swinging over here to John Romita again, but this is Kraven in a Spidey Daily, which is rare to see.
Yep, it is very rare to see. And I acquired this through the Romita man, who had a moment of weakness, and he's admitted to me that he had a moment of weakness. He said, "I should have never sold you this." I'm so glad you sold this piece to me. And I bought this piece in another Kraven Romita Daily, but this was the one I really wanted. It was a little bit more expensive than the other one. I bought the other one first, thinking that I would be happy with that one because I just wanted a John Romita strip because it was more affordable than the panel pages. I think when I purchased this, Romita Man was selling the published Amazing Spider-Man panel pages something like $13,000, and this was a fraction of the price. So obviously, I wanted a Romita strip. So I bought the first Romita strip, but this one was better than the first one. And after I finished paying the first one through, the reasonable timely payments, I said, "Hey, you gave me an offer for this one. I didn't take it. Would you sell this one to me for the same price?" He agreed, and so I did timely payments for this one. And he pretty much said that this one is a doozy, and it truly is a doozy. I think that's a favorite phrase. This one's a doozy, and that word has always stuck with me. And it truly is a doozy. It's a great battle page of Kraven and Spider-Man, and it doesn't get better than this. This is the perfect strip. So lucky me. I did meet Mike Berkey and OAX last year. We took a picture together, and he told me, "Yep, this was a moment of weakness. I should have never sold you those." But he's a great guy, and I do love Mike. Because I've been purchasing art from him for over 15 years, and this was one of my best purchases.
Well, congrats. I'm jealous. I think, yeah, Kraven's probably my favorite Spidey villain, with maybe Doc Ock as a close second. But no, this is great. You did very well for yourself now. And now this next one, we saw that it was right beside your door, so you get to see it every time you leave the the man cave there. But tell me about this one. I mean, I thought these was such a fantastic idea when Joe started doing these, and I think as he got through a few of them, it just seemed to make so much sense for him to just keep going to town making more. But I love this one. The purple's fantastic with the black costume on this thing, and yeah, it's freaking amazing.
It truly is. So Joe Jusko is just one of the greatest painters. Marvel masterpiece pieces is fan favorite, and when he started doing these corner box style art, I knew I wanted one, and I reached out to him and I said, "Are you ever gonna do a Black Spidey one?" And he reached back, and I go, "Yeah, I'll do a Black Spidey for you." And I go, "Okay, this is the pose that I want." There were several poses, but this is the one that I really wanted, and he agreed to do it, and I jumped all over it, and the result is amazing. And he did dedicate it, I think, to Romita, Steve Ditko, and Zek, if I'm not mistaken. I can't really read it from here, but yeah. And this is depicting the Black Spidey in Kraven's Last Hunt, which, like I said, is my favorite Spider-Man story of all time. As you can see, the lightning in the background, and if you know about Kraven's Last Hunt, it's a real dark, gritty story in which there's lots of rain, and you have Kraven hunting Spider-Man, which he could never defeat, and then you have Berman, which is the other character in the story who almost stole the whole show, who was a cannibal that would kidnap ladies and eat them, and he had like a horde of rats that followed him, and it was like a real dark Spider-Man story, and with lots of rain, and I wanted him to kind of bring out some of that into this art. So I said, "Can you do like lightning in the background or something to show that there's a storm?" And he did, and it just came out fabulous. It really pops.
Yeah, no, it does. And you're right. It says after Ditko, Romita, and Zek. Oh. um, yeah, Jeffrey Brown is very, very fun, and I mean, it's you can't not like his style, and certainly his Star Wars riffs and the things that he's done there are just, yeah, they're a joy. They really are. So this, and I know that given the fact that you like the Mandalorian and Grogu, this is, I'm sure this was. Did you get this done for yourself, or did you see it and you just couldn't pass it up?
Well, to tell you a little bit about the background for this, I did meet Jeffrey Brown at Heroes when we all went right after the pandemic, and he did do 3 sketches for me, which are the only sketches that I have personalized and dedicated to my oldest daughter, my youngest daughter, and my nephew, with some clever little messages, which are funny. And yeah, Jeffrey Brown is a great child book artist. And the reason why I purchased this one, believe it or not, obviously the Mandalorian and Grogu are, probably now some of my favorite characters, if not my favorite. Darth Vader will always be my favorite, but I'm obsessed with Mandalorian and Grogu. Well, this has a very simple message. Why? Because this is the way. When I saw this, because I own all his books, when I saw this, I bought this, and might get probably a little emotional. I bought this thinking of my father. So this has a very important message, that my father has always taught me to be a righteous man, to be a good man, to always do the right thing and follow all the rules. My father's still alive. He works every day. He's an 83-year-old man, believe it or not, and he still works every day. And he has multiple myeloma, which is a cancer of the blood, which has no cure. But he wakes up every day full of life and wanting to work and produce. And when I bought this, I bought it thinking of him. Obviously, the Mandalorian would be my father, and I would be, his child. And he's just giving me a message of, do it the right way. And that's the reason why I bought this page, really, because it just connected with me. So I dedicate this piece that I purchased to my father. So, anyways, that's the story behind this one.
That's a wonderful story. There's, the art doesn't always have to be. The thing is, art can mean so many different things to people, and you don't always buy things just because it's nostalgic or you love the characters. Sometimes it's that special meaning. I mean, and I think that's great that this was something that was pre-drawn. You saw it. It immediately resonated with you, and you've made it your own. I think that's amazing, man. And your father sounds like an incredible man.
Yeah, he's a great man, greatest man I've ever known. I just, I love my father, and I bought this thinking of him, and I'm going to frame this along with the other 3 pages. I just have to find a place in the house to hang them. My wife only says I could only hang stuff in this room, but maybe when she hears the story, she'll allow me to hang the other ones and this one. So,
well, I did see that one horizontal piece that was above the door outside of the room. So you do have a few pieces outside of the man cave, right?
I do. There was one? That's the only one, because it leads to the man cave. You are absolutely correct. That was done by Dave Hunt, and it's a great page.
Cool. I love Dave's work. Well, this one should find its way out in the main household, I think. Something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Let's see here. So, who is this one? This is I forget now. Adi, of course.
This is Adi Granov.
You know, it's so
And
funny because I don't think of him in black and white. You know, I think of him as you know, in color all the time. But how could I miss his signature down there in the bottom? Um,
yep.
this is great.
So this is a great cover by Adi Granov, and I did miss the boat and buying an Amazing Spider-Man or a Web of Spider-Man or a Spectacular Spider-Man cover from the 80s. I missed that boat. And I could have bought it at a very reasonable price when I started collecting, but I thought it was still too expensive, and I regret not pulling the trigger on some of those pages. But I did know that I wanted to have a published Amazing Spider-Man page, and when I bought this one, believe it or not, even though I like this piece so much, it was kind of like another. Remember how I said that you have regrets of selling a page? Another
Hmm.
comic art fan on Comic Art Fans got a hold of me and said, "Hey, would you sell me this Night Stalker page to me?" And I didn't want to sell it, but he made me a really good offer. And we were back and forth, and I found out, okay, if I sell it, I gotta get something in return to hang it on the wall. And that page I got really cheap. That cover, that one cover, I got it really cheap. But he made me a good offer, and so I found out how much this one was being sold for. It. I bought this through the Donnelly brothers. One of them, I don't know which one of them, gave me a price, and I go, well, I need this much, otherwise there's no deal. So he agreed to offer me the money, go up a little bit so that I could purchase this one. So it was kind of like a trade-off. So I sold a cover that I really liked for another one that I liked more. But in all honesty, I regret selling the other one. I should have never sold it. I should have just saved up for this one, and I would have had both of them. But
Right.
those are the things that you learn. You learn, you as you all have done, you've all sold art, and you buy, cheaper, you sell them more, make money. But well, I have to say every penny that I've made selling art has gone right back into the hobby for better art. That's just a true artist. That's a true art collector. That's what they usually do. They can't get enough of their collection. So you upgrade it in art, and that's how I acquired this one. So yeah, I gave up a page that I loved for one that I loved more, and that's the story behind this one. But I think I made out pretty good. I made out really good because it's an Amazing Spider-Man published cover.
Exactly. And like Tom mentioned in the chat, you know, good pieces are, you know, that you really want are hard to get because they just are. Once you get a good one like that from Adi or another artist, it's hard to let them go. But we've all
Yep.
done that same thing. Some of us, even with the Donnellys, where we've traded up for. Well, we feel like maybe it's not trading up, right? You're getting something you want, and giving up something because you know that you really wish you could keep. I mean, I did that early in my collecting days with Cool Lines as well a couple times. I always felt like I was doing pretty good, but in hindsight, maybe not. But you know, to each their own. You still ended up with a piece you loved.
Definitely.
Now you
Peace.
got a now McGuinness is this next piece, and it's kind of you know when you see a McGuinness piece, you know it. I mean, the style's there, the way he draws anatomy, the way the inking's done with those really just straight short lines. I mean, it's you know it when you see it. I mean, and this thing just is awesome. I love the composition on it. This was the cover to Amazing Spider-Man Family, or no, not sorry. It was the cover to the Art of It, Ed McGuinness, right? Sorry, Spider-Man and his amazing friends. I'm looking at too many things here in front of me at one time, but I mean, come on, this is incredible. But this is you know it's got an X-Men character on it. You got Wolverine and you got Deadpool and Spidey. So what was the appeal?
You know, so Spider-Man is my favorite character. Wolverine is my second favorite character. Deadpool, I mean, I just looked out, and I never read Deadpool, but you know, you saw the movies, and I was really introduced to Deadpool through the movies. I never read the comic, and Deadpool is just a fan favorite. The movies are rated R, so they're more for adults. And how lucky did I get? I mean, the Deadpool Wolverine movie just came out. And I have this cover. It's an Ed McGuinness cover, which I acquired directly from Ed McGuinness himself. And he had it on sale into his site. I asked for a little discount. He agreed. And I love this cover. It's just so beautifully drawn. And I have another piece from Ed McGuinness that I purchased through Comic Art Fence. It's a panel page. And I did meet Ed McGuinness at GalaxyCon in the summer. That was my consolation prize for missing heroes over the summer. I went to GalaxyCon in North Carolina. I did get all my money back, by the way. I didn't lose out on the airline tickets or the hotel or anything, or the tickets to Heroes, because believe it or not, since it was a state of emergency declared by the governor of Florida and the county mayor, and since I'm a public works director and I got all the right contacts, I had the state of emergency declarations. I provided them to my credit card and I got all my money back. I was able to get that money and go to GalaxyCon for a lot less because I have family in North Carolina. So I had room and board at least. So I went with one of my oldest nephews, Carlos, and his aunt and uncle live in North Carolina. So it was perfect. I introduced my nephew Carlos, who just graduated high school, to this hobby, and he loves it. He's like, man, I want to be just like you when I start making money. I want to have a room full of toys, is what he says. And I go, well, you got to work hard and study hard and get a degree and save up, because this is a very expensive hobby. But we went out there and we had a great time. Me and Carlos spent a 3-day weekend at his aunt's and uncle's house, and they would drive us back and forth to the GalaxyCon in North Carolina. And I got to meet Ed McGuinness. I had never met him before. And, we talked a little bit. I told him that I bought this piece from him. I almost purchased another page from him, but, John Romita Jr. was there, and I put most of my money into John Romita Jr. sketches. So I said, well, that's enough. I backed out of buying that Ed McGuinness page, but I'll probably get more Ed McGuinness art in the future.
I don't blame you. I got to talk to Ed at the last Comic Art Live. It was a lot of fun. I didn't get to see him. His camera didn't work, but yeah, good guy, and he's been on CAF for a very, very, very long time. So yeah, you did well with this one.
It's a great cover. It's a great published cover for his the art by Ed McGuinness. And I have the book here somewhere. I just don't know where it's at.
I think we talked about this next piece, though, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, is this the piece, the initial first piece?
The initial first piece, the one that started it all, by Wendy Pinney, purchased sometime in June 2001. I can't remember the date, but I know it was around that time because it was a few months after my oldest daughter, Kaylin, was born. And again, I bought this on eBay, and in my mind, I was gonna fill a room full of original art when I purchased this. If you notice, through the CAF Crib, I do have some signed prints, etc., which I acquired. And at some point, believe it or not, I knew I wanted to hang stuff related to comics on a man cave at some point. So I do have, several prints that are signed, or they're limited, that I acquired at Universal Studios or Islands of Adventure or some store at there was a store at the mall. I can't remember the name of it. I think it was called Animation or something. Can't remember it. In which I have a print of Spider-Man in the Rain, which I think was done by John Romita Jr. and John Romita Sr., and it's signed by John Romita. And I think Nick Barucci owns the original. Yeah, he owns the original cover that, and he just acquired it probably like less than a year ago. And I can't believe you have this. That is one of my favorite poses of Spider-Man, and I have a statue of that pose, but with Spider-Man unmasked, which came with an original head sketch done by John Romita. But anyways, so some of the things that are hanging on my wall aren't original, they're prints. Because in my mind, I didn't think I was ever going to acquire original art until I saw Unbreakable, and that's what started that spark. And I wanted to hang Wendy Penny original art, and this was the very first piece that I found on eBay. Probably the very first week I got on eBay. Lucky me, and I purchased it. And the very first original art page that I have of the main character, Cutter, chieftain of the Wolf Riders, Blood of 10 Chiefs. And I can't sell this story enough. If you guys have never read ElfQuest, it's a real treat. I believe the pennies have it for free to download on their website. I think it's called ElfQuest. Give it a shot. Read it. The original story. I challenge everybody to read the original story. I think it's going to change your life. You will be so pleasantly pleased. And they've been trying to make a movie forever, ever since I can remember. And they haven't had the good fortune of, getting a studio that would, do their vision of a movie the way that they want to do it. And I think they're working something out with a new studio. I don't know who. They did do like an audio production on Kickstarter, which is another thing that I believe I discovered through one of your emails, Bill. And I did contribute to that Kickstarter for that audio, and I got some cool trinkets, etc. of ElfQuest, some little posters, some pins, etc. It's a fabulous comic book, and nobody draws like Wendy Penny. She is an amazing artist.
I agree. You will not catch me debating you on that. I've always loved Wendy's work and have never owned anything by her. But yeah, I'm envious of this one, and I can tell you, Anthony and Mike both know if they get anything in by Wendy, it's mine. I'll buy it right away. So just I'm there, but you probably got the same offer into them, so we'll get pit against one another in the future. But congrats, starting here at least. It wasn't as easy as you thought for getting it as your first piece.
My first piece, and again, it took me over 20 years to get my the companion, which is the sidekick. So that was a good full circle. Which believe it or not, you had a part to do with it, and so did Anthony. Right place, right time. That's why I love this community, because we support each other, and we get, we sometimes get like a clue from another artist. Hey, this is something that you might like, or somebody might know that you like this type of art, and they offer it to you. And I've never had a bad experience with the comic art fans community.
I like
everybody's always been very, very honest.
Well, that's always a pleasure to hear. Now, let's see, we're going back to the Star Wars universe for the first of the last three pieces we have here. Now, this is from, this is a published comic cover, right? From War of the Bounty Hunters. What do we got?
That is correct. Published cover of War of the Bounty Hunters. Done by, I don't know if it's Carlos or Carlo Pagulayan, and anchor Jason Pop. It's Carlo, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Carlo Pagulayan. So, it's actually two pages. There's the original pencils, which I also purchased, And these are the Blue Line with inks by Jason Poss. And obviously, I had to have both of them. Now, I'm an old school guy. And by that, I mean, I wish both the pencils and the inks were on the same page. But, this is a more modern cover. And now this is the I guess one of the new practices. Everybody lives, around the world somewhere. So the penciler might be in the Philippines and the inker is in the United States or vice versa. And this is that case. So I have the original pencils by Carlo. I have the original inks by Jason, which, believe it or not, I got the pencils first. And then like a month later, this one became available. And Jeffrey Wedding, gave me the clue. He gave me the push. Hey, this one just came out, and I noticed you got the pencils. Are you gonna get it? And I go, definitely, I'm gonna get it. And I got them from Kirk Dilbeck, and this depicts Luke Skywalker and his father Anakin, Darth Vader, and it's just a perfect image of Luke Skywalker with the lightsaber ignited, and a ghostly image of his father in the background. I guess he's in the Death Star, and it's just perfect and beautiful. And I'm a big Star Wars fan, as you know, as I mentioned before. I think Star Wars was my very first movie experience, and I really like the main characters of the original trilogy. Those are my favorite characters. Now I like Mandalorian and Grogu. They're great, So I had to have this one. And I wish again that it was all done in one page, but the modern guys do things differently. At least it's not digitally done at all, because there's some people that now draw digitally, and then the inks get done afterwards. And I don't know, my opinion, that's a little bit of cheating in the way I see it. They might be able to draw a circle more round or something. And I like to see the little mistakes in art. I don't mind seeing a little bit of white out here and there, because it shows that a human worked into creating this piece of art, or several people worked into creating these pieces of art. And those little mistakes are part of the process, which I dig. I dig that kind of stuff. So a piece doesn't have to be perfectly pristine and perfect. If there's a little error here or there, that's perfectly fine by me. I don't mind seeing like the little, pencil marks behind, like the ink, like a blue line pencil. As long as it's original, I love all that.
I get it. We all love the process, I think. I mean, I'd rather see all that than not. You get to see editor notes in the gutters on pages. All that stuff is fun to see. I mean, that's why we love the medium.
Exactly. I mean, all that stuff is what makes the process great. And now there are artists that are moving just to digital, and I can't see myself just buying an all digital piece. I just can't do it. To me, that's not 100% original. It feels like, I don't know. I wish they would go back and just start drawing the way they used to. But some of these artists are moving. This might be a lost art in 20 years if they continue.
Don't say it out. No. Don't give anybody any ideas. But yeah, most of us are with you. To each their own. If somebody wants to buy a monoprint or something, that's fine. But yeah, I'm like you. As a collector, it's got to be a traditional piece of art or nothing.
It's got to be traditional, and if we don't let them know, they might continue. And there's some real prominent artists out there which are really good, and some of them are legends, which are now just doing computer art, and it's crazy. And it's like, why don't you go back to doing like there's some, I don't want to name the artist, but there's some art out there that is all done digital, which is not selling yet. If it would have been done by hand traditionally, I would have bought it in a heartbeat, and for 3-4 times the price. I don't know. That's just me.
I understand. We're going to end everything on 2 different Zek pieces, and and you have a few Zeks out there, so I'm curious how you decided to pick the two that we were down with today. So we have a Kraven's Last Hunt page to get us started on these last two. So of course, Zek pencils and McLeod inks, and this is a beauty.
Yeah, this is just a gorgeous piece of art by two of the more masters of the 70s and 80s, Mike Zeck and Bob McLeod. And yes, Mike Zeck is my favorite artist. I grew up reading Mike Zeck, G.I. Joe, The Punisher Limited series, Secret Wars, and Kraven's Last Hunt. And what a perfect story is Kraven's Last Hunt. It's just a perfect, amazing Spider-Man story. And I bought this through Romita, man. If you all know the story, the entire collection of Kraven's Last Hunt was off the market probably for 20 years. Some collector, I believe in Europe, I think it was Simpleware in France, bought the entire collection from Mike Zeck back in the 80s when this came out, and it was tucked away for 20 years. Then all of a sudden, a prominent collector bought this and the entire story from this one collector, which seemed like a mammoth amount of money at the time, but it really wasn't. You know, the guy was wise to purchase it because he was able to sell. I think 5 issues were broken up through Romita Man. I want to say it was 5 issues. Well, 4 issues were broken up. Let me go back, because 1 issue did not get broken up. 1 issue was bought entirely by another collector, and I happened to have a down payment on one of the pages for that 1 issue. It was the only one that was already reserved for me, and it depicted all 3 main characters, Spider-Man, Kraven, and Vermin. And Romita Man got a hold of me after I think I had made already 2 timely payments. He says, listen, I have a buyer that wants to buy the entire collection of this issue, but you're the only one that has already put a reservation for this 1 page. So I'll make a deal with you. I'll give you $1,000 discount on any other page you want from the remaining 4 issues. And would you do that? If not, you know, we could stick to the original deal. And I told Mike, well, Mike, can you give me $1,500? Because I want 2 pages.
That's what I was gonna say. You better get a little more. If he's willing to give you 1,000, he's willing to do more than that.
Yeah, can you give me $1,500? Because I want 2 pages. So I got this page, which was Spider-Man in every panel. This is Spider-Man dressed up as Spider-Man going after Kraven. In every panel, and I got a Vermin, probably one of the best Vermin pages of the whole story. And that one was for $1,000, but I got it for $500 because I applied $500. The $500 discount went to that page, and he agreed to do it. He goes, "That's a lot, but I'm gonna do it because, you know, this guy really wants this comic, and he doesn't want to break it up, and let's do it." And I got lucky. I mean, I got lucky. I really got lucky. So I was able to get this page plus the other page. I want to say $1,000 less than the other page that I wanted. So I got 2 great pages of Kraven's Last Hunt, my favorite Spider-Man artist of all time, Mike Zeck and Bob McLeod. And man, if you've never read Kraven's Last Hunt, you have to read it. It's just a perfect beginning, middle, and end of a Spider-Man story. And how perfect is this? We couldn't have planned this better if we tried, Bill. The Kraven movie just came out. I just realized.
I know. Well, I asked you if you had seen it, but I don't think you heard me when I said that. Have you seen it already?
I didn't. I did not hear you. I did not hear you. But yeah, I did see it. I saw it with my brother and nephew over the weekend. I really like the ending. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
But you know, It was all right, but the ending was really good. I like the ending. But yeah, like I said, we couldn't have planned this better if we tried, because I'm a Kraven fan. Probably some would say I'm one of the biggest Kraven fans on Comic Art Fans. And the Kraven movie just came out. How
Exactly.
crazy.
And we're ending on another piece of Kraven Zek art.
So look at this page. Isn't that gorgeous? That's just so beautifully done. So to tell you a little bit of the story on this page. So back in 2004, 2005, Mike Zeck created the Art of Mike Zeck's sketchbook, and he created a little project in which he was going to do. He reserved 25 of those sketchbooks to do an original depiction of a character that he drew in the back of the front cover. It's like the front cover right behind it. He would draw a character, and I was looking at that at those eBay auctions, and I almost pulled the trigger on a couple of them. But then he came up with an idea. Okay, for the next one, you get to pick the character that you want. And I was like, oh my God, I know exactly the character that I want. So it was an eBay auction. I got it for, and I remember, and I'm gonna say it, I got it for $500. Back then that was a lot of money, but I was gonna pick the character that I wanted. So I wanted Kraven's Last Hunt. He hadn't done a Kraven character yet, and I wanted a Kraven's Last Hunt theme. I told him I want Kraven in the outfit that he was wearing in Kraven's Last Hunt, with that wicked smile and a lot of rain and lightning. And can you kind of like dedicate it to me, but not dedicate it to me? Can we figure out a way of personalizing it? And I told him, you've done some graffiti and other art, and I think you've done it for other fans. Can you put my name and my wife's name in a heart, saying Alfredo loves Dixie? And he did. He made our names part of the image, which is the perfect way to personalize a piece of art. I mean, I'm not one of those guys that says, hey, could you say to my best friend Alfredo forever, or all the best? I don't like none of that. But this is a way to do it that makes it part of the image, and it looks great because it's like a graffiti.
It's perfect. You couldn't have asked for a better way for him to handle that.
Yeah, and
$500.
Yeah, and he did such a great job. I mean, a beautiful job. I mean, somebody not too long ago, an editor got a hold of me, and they wanted me to scan my Kraven's Last Hunt pieces. I also have the interior spider covers, the pictures of spiders hanging from their webs in one of the hardcovers, because I think they want to reprint Kraven's Last Hunt, and they asked me to scan them in high resolution and send it to them, and I agreed to do that. And I asked them, listen, I have this piece. Do you think maybe you could try to include it in that some way, somehow? He goes, well, I don't know, but we can try. Scan it, and I scanned it even better than what I had. I sent it to the editor, the Marvel editor as well. So maybe, it might get published. It would be great. That would be amazing if it would get published. But again, to finish the story. So yeah, Mike he had 25 of these sketchbooks to do an original piece of art, and I think he only got to number 11. I think the last one was Galactus and the Silver Surfer. So there's still 14 that he never did. So who knows? Maybe one day he'll resume that project and do the next 14. We could cross our fingers and hope that he does it. He is in retirement, I think, in the Philippines, and I've heard rumors that when the movie Secret Wars comes out, they're gonna fly him out here, and I don't know. I would hope that when they do, maybe we could invite him to OAX. Wouldn't that be great if we could get Mike Zeck to OAX in the future?
We might want to have you be our ambassador to try to get Mike Zeck to come here, because we have others, but you as a fan, you seem to have your a way with getting him to do some pretty interesting things.
Yeah, well, me and Chuck Costas, we'll try to work that out. I got to meet Chuck at OAX. Chuck, when I got this piece, Chuck reached out to me, believe it or not. He says, "I want to buy it from you." I go, "No, I can't sell it. It's dedicated to me. Can you see my name and my wife's name?" But Chuck is a major Mike Zeck fan. I think he is the greatest Mike Zeck fan of all time. He's got the greatest Mike Zeck collection, and he did display his entire. I don't know if it was his entire collection, but it was a great collection in a university here where that Mike Zeck attended here in Florida, which I think your daughter was going to attend it. Wasn't your daughter going to attend that university, Bill? I'm not sure. I heard a rumor that she was.
Was that at Ringling? I can't remember where it was at.
Ringling, yeah, Ringling.
Yeah, well, one of my daughters would like to go there, but
okay.
she's going to UCF at the moment. But
okay.
Go to Ringling. But Chuck did he did a presentation from the Zeck exhibit during that, and you shot video from it too that we posted on the channel.
I went on the very last day of the exhibition, and I took my family to Orlando to vacation a couple of days in the theme parks, and I called and I said, "Hey, when is the last day of the exhibition?" "Oh, this is the last day." I said, "Babe, I gotta go, and go for it." And she let me go, and I went, did the round trip. I think it was a 90-minute trip from Orlando to Ringling, and I spent, I want to say an hour or an hour and a half there. I spent between the whole round trip, 4.5 hours in that, but it was worth it. It was worth seeing Chuck Costa's entire collection, including the Phil Sibbelman, Mike Zeck original covers of the Punisher limited series. Those are just amazing.
They had to be the highlight from that. No, I remember when we when he did the little tour there with us. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed I didn't get to come down. I think I moved in down to Florida about 2 months after that show closed, so I didn't get to see it. But maybe I should just go visit Chuck someday and have him show off his collection in person. That'd be pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, I heard Chuck wants to do another exhibition somewhere. I think in Washington. I don't know, because I think he used to host the Cherry Blossom. I don't know. Yeah, he called it. And he meant something to me out of it.
Together. Yeah, I think he's the one who started them. I mean, he's kind of passed the torch to a few other collectors, but yeah, he was doing them for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, he told me he wants to do an exhibition of G.I. Joe art, and he's always tried to get the Snake Eyes David Michael Beck, but I won't budge. He did buy the entire remaining collection from Scott for the remaining back covers of G.I. Joe characters when I think they went on sale 2 years ago. He bought the entire collection. But he wants that Snake Eyes, and I asked him, "Nope, I can't sell it. But do you know where the Storm Shadow is?" He goes, "No, I really don't know." Well, if you know, let me know, because I'm in the market for that one. So,
but he wants yours. So yeah, that I don't know.
But yeah, Chuck is a great guy. He's always reached out to me, and we stay in touch here and there.
Chuck's a good guy. He's definitely. He's earned the respect of a lot of collectors and artists over time. I mean, he's been in the hobby for a very long time. Oh man, well, Alfredo, we made it past the 2-hour mark, even though we had our little glitches, both of us today. Yes, I'm beginning to think I know what my issues are here now that I've had this problem happen a couple different times with me. But I don't know what was wrong with your tablet, but the phone worked just fine. You got a pretty steady hand.
Well, I'm glad we made it work. I got a little nervous there for a while. Oh my God, I can't believe this. But we made it work, and I hope that everybody enjoyed my collection and my career in this great hobby of ours. And I've met a lot of great people in your chat. You did this during the pandemic, which I have to thank you personally, because for me it was therapy. It really was therapy. When a lot of people were stuck in their houses and all. Even though I got to go to work because I'm considered a first responder to some extent. And I have to make sure that the infrastructure where I work is always working, etc. So I always got to go out to work. But some people, they were just stuck at home. It was a really scary time. And I don't know if you know this, but we got our first dog because of the pandemic. He's our COVID baby. We named him Waffles. My youngest daughter purchased Waffles with her 15s money, which we couldn't do a 15s for her due to the pandemic, even though we reserved a banquet hall, etc. But everything was shut down. So we managed to do 15s just for our closest friends and family here at home. And then she got a lot of money. And, my girls were a little bit, down and out because of the pandemic. They had to do school from home. They couldn't, hang out with their friends as much. And so my wife and I, who never wanted a dog, gave in, and she bought Waffles with her own money. And now we're like, why didn't we ever get a dog? We love this dog, Like, right, man, do I love that dog. I tell my daughters, yeah, Waffle says, and I tell them this every day, Waffle says that I'm his favorite. And they get all upset at me.
Waffles.
And they chose the name. They chose the name, but the funny thing is that I wanted to name Waffles Chewy, but I got outvoted, 3-1. But anyways,
that's your nickname for him, right? You call him Chewy.
So you did Waffles. You did the picture of Waffles. The picture that I sent you is me holding up Waffles. So
right,
wanted to share that with you all.
That was the image from the show that that you sent. Yeah, I don't actually have my computer anymore, do I? I don't. Oh shoot! I removed it when I set everything up earlier. Oh wait a minute, no, I do still have it here. Here's Waffles. Where is that? I can share the screen right here. There we go. It's a little. Change the size of that. There, that's better.
That's our pandemic baby, and he really changed our lives. And man, do we love that dog. We all love him. My wife loves him. I love him. The girls adore him. And yeah, it's a great companion.
It's like all your favorite things all at the same time.
That's right. I even have a little bed, which I think I showed in the CAF Cribs.
Yeah, Spider-Man bed, right?
Spider-Man bed, and Waffles comes here and hangs out with me, jumps on the couch and hangs out with me, and he's a great companion. So yeah, that's my story. That's my story, Bill.
Well, I'm glad we got to do this one again in a proper way. We got to even see that you've got Corona and ginger ale packed in that little mini fridge in the corner. So
yeah, that's true. I'm more of a whiskey guy now. I don't drink beer as much unless I'm eating chicken wings. But Corona is my favorite beer, and my wife loves Corona Light. So, I always have some of that for her here. But yeah, I don't know if it's ever been shown, but I don't know if this is the first crib that shows a mini refrigerator. But I had to have a mini refrigerator in my man cave, and you know how I got that idea? Believe it or not. I got that idea from watching an old, it's old now, but back then when I saw it, it was a Roseanne episode. Remember that sitcom Roseanne?
I remember that.
And I think her husband, which was a big guy, he went to some kid's house, and the kids had like a mini refrigerator and a man cave, and he was like, wow, you have a mini refrigerator next to a couch and you get to watch TV and just grab the beer, right? And that's genius. And I go, I always remembered that. And I go, I have to have a mini refrigerator from that Roseanne show. So that's the origin story for this mini refrigerator.
Well, I think every collector should have one in their man cave if they have the space for it. So, Alfredo, we're going to see you at OAX again, right? At the end of January?
I'm definitely going to be there. You know, me and my kid brother, we're going to go. I have a kid brother. He's actually 13 years younger than me. He's he started collecting now. You know, I got him into collecting. So he will be there. He was there last year with me as well. And I'll share another funny story with you. So when I was like 19, he was probably like, so if I was 19, he was like 5 or 6. He was probably 6. I would, you know, to activate his imagination, I would tell him these wild stories. I would tell him, well, tonight, you know, I have a secret mission. My code name is Snake Eyes, and I gotta go to Cuba to assassinate Fidel Castro. So, you know, wish me luck. And he's like, for real? No. And it's just a funny story that I would tell him, and you know, he appreciates that story now. I can't believe you would tell me that, but you know, I thought you were so cool, and I'm like, yeah, you know, I wanted to. I don't know if I had the wild imagination or he had the wild imagination, but I always looked after my brother and
both. If he felt for that. Well, anybody that you introduce him to at OAX is probably going to tell him a wild story just to see if he'll believe it.
If you bite, right?
Exactly. Now, you're there the whole weekend.
All right.
Too, right? You're there on Friday night, so we get to see you the whole weekend.
All right. You broke up a little bit there. I'm not sure what you said. You're breaking up now, but I don't know if you were saying goodbye. But
well, we can do that. I think you're breaking up.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
All right. We'll see you at OAX. Have a great holiday, man. It was you know, we got it's only a week until Christmas Eve, so lots
right.
for all of us family men. But enjoy the holiday, and again, I'm looking forward to hanging out with you again at OAX and your younger brother.
Definitely.
January.
Yeah. Every time I see you, I make it a point to take a photo with you. So I'll continue that tradition. See you at OAX. I want to wish you all the best, Bill. I want to wish you and your kids and your wife all the best. I want to wish all the fellow comic art fans here all the best. Thank you for tuning in. And God bless you. God bless you all, and be well, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Alfredo, and thank you everybody for hanging out with us tonight. We'll be back at it again tomorrow night, but tonight was a lot of fun, and we got to see Alfredo's collection in a different way 3.5 years later. So I appreciated it, getting to see all that again for myself, Alfredo. So take care of yourself, and we'll see you again in 6 weeks, less than 6 weeks.